Welcome back to another video on the E92. So, it's been plenty of upgrades throughout the this little episode, we'll call it. This is probably the main one. I'm going to go straight to the done video here since I sucked and didn't do an entry. But so now we've got all the powder coating stuff back, we can finish another project off. This is actually my old cell. It looked like it had been to war, so we wanted to make it look a bit fresher. So we got it powder coated once we got everything else powder coated. And obviously this is the pump that we're talking about. One thing I wanted to show you is, I don't know how many people have done it or if anyone's watching it has done it. These things can sometimes be a pain to do, especially if you pulled it apart before. So my little tip is I get one of these. So when you pull it all apart, you'll see that there's like a base plate that all the bolts thread into. That's right at the bottom. There's literally nothing to hold that up. So what I do is I've made two of these bolts here that I stick that in that actually fits through the hole. So you can use these bolts to hold all like the plate up at the bottom. And then you can drop that down and then you can use a little bit of a lever, hold that up so you can get the bolt started. Because if you don't have this in there, there's literally no way to hold the retaining plate in the bottom of the tank. And the only other choice that I've ever had that I tried is I had the tank sitting upside down, which is a mission as well. So this is the best thing that I've come up with. I have two bolts, one goes here, just do the opposite corner, sit that on, pull these bolts up, and then you can get your bolts started close to this, and then work your way around to the other side. So that's how we do it. This is going to get bolted in. Should look pretty sweet when it's done. Alright, so we got our 250 gallon an hour fuel pump installed. She's all coming out pretty sweet, to be honest with you. We ended up powder coating that tank, so the tank got a mini refresh. And honestly, I've been lucky enough that I can reuse most of these other lines. We did have to shorten up this hose here, so I really wanted to do black and gold. I really want to do black and gold everywhere as well. This isn't actually crimped yet, so I gotta have it matching. So we're gonna order another black and gold. Well, we do have the gold, but we're gonna order another black fitting this week. But yeah, everything else is coming out pretty sweet. So the powder coat definitely looks good. I'm super happy with the powder coat and the gold. And then we did have stainless screws in here, but Sparky actually pulled me up on that and was like, hey, we got some gold screws. So got the zinc screws in there as well. So I think it looks pretty sweet. So that's another job done, and we can continue on getting this fuel system sorted. So next step's probably going to be start on the wiring. So we'll get some wiring done to it and get that return hose done and see where we're at. So let's continue on. It's a fairly successful little afternoon here. We got this plumbed up. This is our return line coming from the regulator at the motor. These are our two -8 feeds to the fuel rail. We did our overflow breather vent for the tank. We installed the Fuel Lab filter on the bottom. It's one thing that's actually kind of important. I've seen a lot of fuel, I've cleaned a lot of injectors over the years, and usually in a drift car, it's kind of common if someone doesn't put a filter on this vent, the rubber will end up getting into the fuel tank, and then it kind of, you usually see some in your filter. And then if you have a filter that's pretty good for filtering rocks, that ends up in the injector, and then that usually gets pretty disappointing. So filter on the vent, definitely important. This one's from Fuel Lab, that'll work sick. So we got that, we did our loop here. This is also pretty important to stop fuel pouring out when you're going around the corner. And then we got our fill line on. The only thing left to do really now is wire up the pump, wire up the lift pump inside, and wire up the fuel gauge. So that's on the auxiliary harness at the back that comes from this plug just here that's taped off. So we'll Probably, honestly, I'll get a few other things in the way now. I'll probably get that cooler in that we started on, and then probably get the radiator in and the hoses lined up and the fans. Then once all that stuff's done, we'll probably look at doing the wiring, I think. So that's the plan. I do have to what this hose here mounts to. Actually, I need to powder coat, so we might have a little interesting video coming up on that. We'll see how it goes, but that's where we are with the fuel system right now. It's getting there. It's all been installed, it's finished. We put the harness in off camera, got it all tied in nicely. We got all our little clips holding everything in. We just put these final ones on here. That's going to be to hold for the tail light plug. This is our lift pump. This was our 2 fill pumps. We've only 2 pressure pumps. We've only got a single one now, so we're going to have a spare 20 amp output back here, which is pretty nice. Got all that tied up, fans are all plugged in, so that all worked. We do need to check that direction on them, but we should be good, just from our colours that we have here, so we think we should be good with that. We had to redo this little setup here. So that's good, that all worked, we got that now, just so we're kind of all on the same page. This here used to be my idle air control, so this is hooked up to a Motec half bridge. So that's what we need for the fuel pump control, and then if we ever decide to go brushless fans, I'm going to run those wires back there. So if we do want to go for that upgrade, I've got the option, but for now we're just going to run what we had. So dual half bridge, back to the back of the car. It's the most simplest way, instead of cutting open all the boots on the computer. So we'll get that run down to the back here, then we'll work at plumbing this pump in, and the lift pump, we'll work at plumbing those 2 in. So we'll get them wired up. This is the fuel gauge, used to be like actually out here somewhere. So the wiring, we had to modify that, but we got that in. I like to have it back here for whoever's filling up. That's our level sensor. So yeah, it's all coming along pretty good. Hopefully by the end of today, or definitely by the end of this video, we're gonna have this buttoned up. Maybe it won't be today, it might be tomorrow, but yeah, we're going pretty good. This back end's mechanically, it's just pretty much there, so be a nice place to finish. I do have this has been shipped, our spare one, so we can do a black and gold, the same as that side. So that's actually on its way. So today's Friday, it probably won't get here today, so that'll be a next weekend project, but we're nearly done with this rear end, so it'll be time to move back to the front here and continue knocking off projects. Everything's working. We ran our control cable for the fuel pump, since we never had a control cable. Also, while we were there, we actually ran 4 half bridges down here. This is what we got. This is a quick overview. This is our fuel pump. This is our main pump. What's super nice about this is we can pull it out just with these bolts. The whole pump comes out, and it's a single pump. One of my most likings for a single pump is one less piece of data that I have to watch, so it's just a single pump. I'm not worrying about the other one I had staged, or 2 or 3 or whatever I had. So single pump. And if one pump starts failing, I did have the data in the car to be able to look at and be like, oh, that one's drawing a decent amount more current than the other, and that would usually lead me to looking at that sort of thing. But for this solution now from Fuel Lab, it's just a single pump. So that is like the biggest win for me. I think it's a great solution. A single pump can support over 1,000 horsepower is sick, and the current draw is low, so it's like a win on all bases. I am sponsored by them, but this is I generally think it's good. Obviously, I'm going to test it in my own car before I start preaching the word, but I think having a single pump that can support that much power is killer. Like, so many advantages than having, you know, I do have Motec, so if we did lose some fuel pressure, it is going to fix it for me, but we're not trying to test that out. So that brings us to the end of the fuel system. Thanks for watching. I do have to correct, this is actually the 1100 litres per hour pump. So it's 1100 litres per hour. So it's the big honk daddy that they sell. So we should have way more fuel here than what we need, so it's definitely going to be interesting. I will share in some of the shorts or something probably in the future what actual duty cycle we ran this thing at to make our 1100 and have the pump like pretty much balanced with the pressure. So that's what we're going to go through and do. So that'll be super interesting. I do have a bit of work to do in the Motec system to get this thing calibrated and working how I want it to work. There's a few different ways. I'm going to try and tune the pump to work, like ramp it in as we need it. I don't want to just run it at full berries the whole time. It really, in my opinion, defeats the purpose of having it. So this is what we come up with. We got our super nice filler here. We did set this up on an angle, so if it gets water or rain on it, it will run off and hopefully not straight into our fuel tank. So that's pretty nice. Everything worked pretty good. Everything's in the center now. Nice and symmetrical. Yeah, everything else you guys seen in the video. If you got any questions, hit me up. But I think we should have a pretty solid fuel system for the car now. Probably simplified it a little bit more. And I'm super happy to get this thing going and get it tested. Thanks Fuel Lab for the support. Let's get this baby running.